Let me ask you a few questions. Have you experienced extreme levels of frustration during your weight loss journey? Have you ever felt like you were forced to eat a bland ass, boring diet in order to reach your weight loss goals? Are you dealing with a fat loss plateau that is absolutely driving you crazy? If you can relate to any of these things, then you clicked on the perfect video, because I'm going to introduce some information to you that's going to bring some ease into your weight loss process, that's going to make it easy for you to be consistent. And squad, because I love you guys, we prepared an all new nutrition guide that gives you all the information that you need about nutrition, because nutrition is the hardest part. So click the link, download the guide, and be sure to check your spam folder. You're welcome in advance. Welcome back, guys. My name is Brix, and I lost about 160 pounds a few years ago. If you're new here, click the subscribe button, hit the like button in advance, because I make powerful videos that will help you transform your life. So this is video 2 of the Summer Body series, and in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to calculate your calories as well as calculate macros. All right, but first I'm going to break down how fat loss actually occurs. I'm going to break down the 4 different ways that you can burn calories, and then we're going to get into how to calculate your calories and your macros. All right, first things first, let's talk about how fat loss actually occurs. On the most basic fundamental level, fat loss occurs when you create what is called a calorie deficit. Now, there's 2 ways to create a calorie deficit. You can either consume less calories or you can burn calories, and I'm going to explain to you the 4 different ways that your body actually burns calories. So the first way you burn calories is through resting energy expenditure. And this is the calories that you burn just sitting on the couch, grabbing the remote control and flicking the channel, or maybe just patting your dog on the head, or your heart beating, right? The functions of your body require energy, and this energy comes in forms of calories burned, right? So that's your resting energy expenditure. The next way you burn calories is through exercise energy expenditure. And this is pretty self-explanatory. This is the calories you burn during your workout. As you can see here, I'm jumping rope in my house because I just had an extra pancake and I wanted to burn it off. All right, the next way you burn calories is through your non-exercise energy expenditure. This can include walking to the refrigerator and grabbing some eggs. This can include you bending down to tie your shoe, whatever it may be. This is all the activity that happens outside of your workout. The 4th way your body burns calories is through the thermic effect of food. Your body actually has to use energy to metabolize, to process, to digest your food. And not all calories require the same amount of energy. And this is why I'm a big advocate for high protein diets, because protein actually requires the most energy to metabolize, so which makes it a higher thermic effect of food. So you actually burn more calories when you're eating protein. So now when you combine how many calories you burn from these 4 different ways, and you compare that to how many calories you actually put into your face through what you ate and drink, that's what's going to determine whether you have a caloric surplus or a caloric deficit. If you're trying to lose body fat, then you want to have a caloric deficit. Here's an example. If you consume 3,000 calories, but you only burn 2,500 calories when you combine all 4 of these ways that your body burns calories, right? So if you only burn 2,500, but you ate 3,000 calories, that gives you a 500 calorie surplus. But on the other hand, if you burned 3,500 calories and you consumed 3,000 calories, that gives you a 500 calorie deficit. Now, if you are consistently creating a 500 calorie deficit every single day, over time, that's going to average out to be about 1 pound a week, which is a reasonable target for healthy, sustainable fat loss. All right, so let's jump into how to calculate your calorie requirements. So my personal go-to calorie calculator is the Bodybuildingcom calorie calculator. There's tons of them on the internet, but this is the one that I trust and the one I've been using for maybe about 10 years now. All right, let me show you how it's done. All right, so here we are, the Bodybuildingcom macro calculator. I have all the information filled out. It's pretty self-explanatory. Age, sex, height, weight, your goal, your activity level. If you work out at all, I would go with moderately active. Click calculate, boom, it spits out your calorie requirements. This is based on that 40-40-20 split. And later in the video, I'm going to give you some different macro splits to experiment with. But here are my calorie suggestions, 24-27. And that's pretty spot on. Okay, now that we calculated your calorie requirements, now it's time to figure out which macro splits you want to experiment with. Now, here's a disclaimer. If you have 50, 60, 100 pounds to lose, I honestly would not stress myself out counting macros. I would simply focus on making sure that I'm getting the right amount of calories and the right amount of protein. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, so take this with a grain of salt. All right, so if your goal is to maintain muscle mass while losing fat, and your goal is to have an athletic looking body and you want to weight train, then I would advise you to get 0.75 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So for example, if you weigh 200 pounds, you would multiply 200 times 0.75, and that gives you 150 grams of protein. So yes, but now if you decide to go into the whole macro counting world, which I think is not a bad idea, but I just want you to be aware that it's not absolutely necessary. It's a powerful tool, but it's not absolutely necessary. So what is a macro? All right, macro is short for macronutrients, which is the name of the subgroup of calories, right? Calories are divided into 3 different types of macronutrients. There's your carbs, there's your proteins, and then there's your fats. Macro meaning a lot. So this is the type of nutrients that we need, that our bodies need a lot of. So unlike with calories, when you're counting macros, you're counting it in grams. So you're counting grams of protein, grams of fats, grams of carbohydrates. Now you got to understand this. So we track macros because not all calories are created equally. If you consume 2,000 calories worth of carbs and you consume 2,000 calories worth of protein, it's going to affect your body in 2 totally different ways. So we use macronutrient splits to figure out what's the right amount of carbs, protein, and fats for my body. So my favorite thing about tracking macros is the flexibility that it allows, but I'll get back to that a little bit later in the video. How to calculate your macro split. Now, these are going to be just suggestions based on some estimated goals that you may have, right? This is just somewhere for you to start your personal experiment with. Now, understand this. Macros are usually presented in a percentage form. So when you see 40-40-20, which is one of the most popular macro splits, especially in the bodybuilding community, that means 40% protein, 40% carbs, and 20% fats. All right, so let me show you how the math breaks down. So let's say we're doing a 40% protein, 40% carb, 20% fats macro split of 2,000 calories. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna multiply 2,000 by 40, and what that does, it gives you 800 calories. So that means 800 of your 2,000 calories are gonna come from protein, 800 of your 2,000 calories are gonna come from carbs. There's 4 calories in every gram of protein. There's also 4 calories in every gram of carbohydrate. So if you have 800 calories coming from carbs and 800 calories coming from protein, in order to figure out how many grams you should be consuming, you divide 800 by 4. So that breaks down to 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs. You divide 400 into 9, and that gives you 44.4 grams of fat per day on a 40-40-20 split. Okay, so here are 3 macronutrient splits that you can experiment with. Now, the first one comes from Bodybuildingcom, and this one is recommended for people who are trying to build muscle or body build. And that is your typical 40-40-20 split. That's 40% protein, 40% carbs, and 20% fats. Another split to experiment with if you want to drop your protein a bit, but you still want to build lean muscle and have an athletic physique, then you want to try 30% protein, 40% carbs, and 30% fats. This is the way that I recommend you calculating your macronutrient splits. You take your body weight, right? For instance, I weigh 218 pounds right now. So you take 218 pounds, you multiply that by 0.75, that gives you 163.5 grams of protein. What percentage of your calories is going to be from protein? You take 163 grams, 0.5, and you multiply that by 4. That gives you 654 grams. Now, if you remember from the calorie calculator, it determined that I needed 2,457 calories. So now we have to determine what percentage of 2427 is 654. So what we do is divide 654 54 by 24.27, and that gives us 0.26. So that's our protein percentage, 26% protein. So 26% protein. So let's just go ahead and round that down to 25%. So that gives us a macro split of 25. I'm going to go ahead and put I always default to a 20% fat. I don't really like to have a lot of fats in my diet, and I think this is a really good place for most people to start. All right, so that gives us a split of 25% protein, 55% carbs, and 20% fats. So you'll insert, once you do your protein calculation, you add 20% fats. Difference there is going to give you your carb percentage. Look, I know this may sound like a lot, but it's really not as complicated as you think. Now, learning to track macros has been an absolute game changer for me because it allows me to have balance. It allows me to be more flexible with my diet. During my weight loss journey, I followed a philosophy called if it fits your macros, which means that if I can make it fit, whether that's an Oreo or kale salad, I was able to eat it, which made it more sustainable for me to eat in this way, right? Understanding the numbers and learning how to make certain things fit, bro, it's an absolute game changer because look, you don't have to eat 100% healthy in order to lose weight. It's all about the numbers, all right? So hopefully that was helpful, guys. All right, I'm currently taking on online coaching clients, so head over to brixtrainer.com. You won't have to do any of this math because I will do it for you, all right? So schedule a discovery call and let's figure out if we can work together. And as always, guys, remember the body that you want is owned by a higher version of yourself. So evolve. Peace.